Oops. Oh no. I just messed it up. I guess I should push undo maybe. And undo again. Undo again. I think that should be okay. Do I need any of this stuff? Yeah, I just got a bunch of stuff on my screen. Forgot about this stuff. What is this? Yeah, so I was just fixing, I just updated my OBS. It's been a really long time since I used OBS. If you don't know OBS, it's the streaming software I use right now to be able to share my screen. And my purpose is to be able to, I'm hoping that my videos can be shown in the vertical format. So like in the YouTube, I don't know what they call it, like the short video, YouTube Shorts. Is that what it's called? YouTube Shorts. Anyways, let's do some checking. So the first thing we need to do is I need to go to my Promenade Française website and just check to see if we can actually see this. Yeah, okay. Now we need to go to my channel. I mean, if you're sitting here just looking at me, you're like, yeah, obviously we can see it. We can see. Oh, yeah. Awesome. Okay, so number one is that you can hear me. Now, the next thing I want to do is I just want to play any video. Why did the audio stop? Okay, for example, we'll just do this one. I growing up in China as a white man in the 60s. Hold on, I need to turn this. Okay, so like the thing I'm actually doing right now is that I'm viewing my own channel, but there's two things that are happening at the same time. The one thing I'm doing is I'm looking at my own channel, and at the same time I'm also listening to this dude is speaking Chinese. 你问我今天我怎么样这个嘛？你看。Okay, he definitely speaks. Okay, he speaks Chinese perfectly. Right, well, there's an issue because I'm supposedly looking at my own screen, but it's not happening. That's really weird. I can hear myself talking. Okay, so you can't hear the audio. So over here we have the Mac OS screen capture where it does not allow the audio to be captured. So we can't capture the audio from the screen. Okay, fine. So I'll just push stop here. Okay, so where are we? So you can hear my audio, that's fine. You can see my screen, that's fine. Okay, OBS is back up. And if I'm sharing if I hear anything, any kind of audio on my screen, you actually cannot hear it, which is fine. So far, everything is fine. Everything is fine. Okay, so the questions, we got some questions. So what am I doing? Like, what is going on with Promenade Française? Because I haven't been here for a really long time. And like, I mean, my last video, so what happened last year at the end of the year is that I was kind of like, hey, check it out, I'm speaking French, and oh, now I'm speaking Russian, oh, and now I'm speaking Chinese. Like, all these crazy things were happening all at the same time. And then I don't know, I had some kind of like, what I'm always like struggling with this idea of like, how do I study languages and how do I get focused, and how do I think everybody struggles with this because I teach some students business English. It's a type of I don't know, it's a cross between teaching business English and business coaching, and maybe with a dash of psychology, because some people like are having like really big problems in their life. The thing is that people generally have big problems in their lives, and particularly now. And then also, if you think about it, like since I'm teaching business English, I'm teaching coaching ideas, business coaching ideas on the platform which is intended for business English students, which means that the students are like, hey, I want to study business English. But then in my profile, like I put it quite clearly that I have like a very specific type of business English like coaching methodology. And then so that, which means it's like somebody's looking for some type of coaching, which means like, hey, I need somebody to talk to about business, and sometimes there's a bleed between business and life. Okay, so it means that a lot of people are trying to solve problems, and that's exactly what I do. So I spent the last 10 years trying to develop some kind of app, which I'm still developing, by the way, and it's all about how to um, manage yourself, manage your time, manage people, manage projects, be a manager of yourself and others. How do I get more out of life? How do I accomplish my goals? Because why? Because I just noticed that I was struggling with accomplishing my goals, and also I was trying to figure out, how do I do business? What does it mean to do business? And then as I started to research how to do business, that's where I discovered, like, okay, what we're talking about is like, how do I manage myself? How do I manage other people? And then that breaks down to like, okay, do you have a specific aim? Do you know what you're trying to accomplish? And then what are the steps to accomplish that aim? Wild, right? So now we're here and we're trying to study French. So I want to share with you what I've been doing all winter. And let's see if we can come up with a plan for what to do. Now, first of all, I don't want to like promise that I'm going to do anything, because as you saw, I was kind of like trying to promise that I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to, well, remember the challenge? So if you look at the last video, basically there's a challenge where I'm saying, hey guys, I'm going to learn French all winter, and let's see what it's like in the spring. Well, now it's like, May 20th, so the spring is like mostly over. And everyone says, hey, where are you? What's going on? What are you doing? And also, I need to look at my schedule. Okay, so we have until 2 o'clock. So we got 50 minutes to discuss what is going on around here. Okay, let me just get a piece of paper. So the thing is that what I discovered is that I think that language and thinking, sometimes there is a very close connection between thinking and the mighty pen. The pen is mightier than the sword. All right, it's starting to get warm in here. So yesterday I had a Russian lesson, And I feel like I found a Russian textbook that I really like and that I'm motivated to learn from. And then I have like a Russian tutor, and she's kind of like, she's fine with the book, and she's not annoying, and she can handle the boredom and monotony of going through language exercises. And then I also have a Chinese tutor, and we've been studying something called Changyu, which is the basically like Chinese proverbs. And the proverbs, they come from Chinese history. So when you're learning proverbs, you're really learning Chinese history and Chinese thinking and Chinese culture. So I'm actually quite happy with my Russian lesson right now, and also my Chinese lessons. Now, when it comes to French, my tutor, she's not necessarily the most fluent French speaker. And the issue with having a tutor that's not really a fluent French speaker is there's some limitation to what you can do with that tutor. On the other hand, when you have a person who is a fluent native speaker, then there's other issues that arise, which mean like at some point, sometimes what happens is that people have issues with like meeting you at your level. Like I have a problem with my Russian tutor because she obviously doesn't have that much experience, and so sometimes she'll just start talking in Russian, like blah, 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 and like I'm like I don't understand anything that she says. Like she's explaining grammar with like very technical Russian, and it's like yeah, I didn't get any of that. And then she'll like explain it again, and it's like nah, I still didn't get any of that. So the thing is that like when you teach over time, you start to learn how to like slow down explaining things step by step and using very simple language because you recognize the importance of the student understanding what you're saying. The Chinese tutor is fine. So the Chinese tutor, on the other hand, like I lived in China for 10 years, so she speaks fast, she speaks everything, and I understand, 90% of what she's saying. That some of the issues that I have when it comes to her speaking Chinese with me, it's much more related to the very specific content that we're studying. All right, so let me give you an example. Huh. I see the problem. So this screen is actually that's a regular window, and this one is a incognito window, which is a little bit different. So for example, right now in my Chinese lesson, so what I did for our Chinese lesson is we were in the middle of the lesson, and I said, the pinyin is wrong here. Can you give me the corrected pinyin on the left, the Chinese in the characters in the middle, and the English on the right? I took 2 screenshots. So this is my Chinese lesson. And then the tutor and me, we talk about, we go through the text of this. For example, this one is like to go back on one's word. What goes around comes around. All right, so you can see the first sentence. During the warring state period, 1 year, the state of Zhou was defeated in a battle with the state of Lu, and many soldiers were killed or wounded. So, see, the issue with this is like, okay, so it says, 战国的时候有一年，奏国在于鲁国. So, like, so do you know the word 奏国? Do you know the word 鲁国? 的交战中吃了白 and then what's this character here? 白 something. 败仗死 and then what does that say? 死伤了许多 and then it's finally it's 将士. Okay, so on the left you have the Chinese pinyin, and then in the middle we have the Chinese characters, and on the right we have the English. So the teacher is like, she's trying to explain. She's like, okay, so 战国, when is 战国? And then who is Mengzi? And who is 奏国? What is 奏国? What is 鲁国? And then what's happening in the situation. So she's explaining it, and like I understand most of it. And I feel very comfortable listening to Chinese, even sometimes I don't understand everything that she says, because of course I lived in China for 10 years. So I have an undergraduate degree in Chinese law that was completely taught in Chinese. So for me, it's like, I can get by. I can get through. But then there's like a lot of details that I missed. And then so that's the issue with like my study in Chinese right now is that I found a book, I found a teacher, I found a time of the week, and I'm actually quite satisfied with my experience with this teacher, and I'm also satisfied with the experience with my Russian tutor. I'm satisfied with the book, and then also my French tutor. So then my French tutor the other day, she's like, "Hey, I want to do like two more lessons with you per week." She's like, "I want to make more money." And I was like, "Okay, fine." But the thing is, the issue is that so what we're doing is, I mean, as I mentioned before, so I have two French lessons every day. And what we do is we separate the two lessons. So in the first lesson, we talk about, we use religious material. And in the second lesson, we use the news. So regarding the religious material, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. I'm going to make it so it's easier to see. All right, so for example, like I'm gonna put it here for a second. Okay, so for example, like this thing called Joshua. Joshua, it's a book in the Old Testament, and and so right now we're reading about Joshua in the Old Testament, and that's because with my church we have like a study program where every week you're supposed to read a certain amount of the Bible, and right now we're focusing on the Old Testament. So we together we actually read the words of the Bible, and then we also read the study manual. So there's actually like a step-by-step study manual that we can go through. In fact, and so what I do is that, so obviously this is the English. So what she does is she'll read a paragraph in French. Here, I'll bring over the French, and then you can see it. Okay, so here's the French. Car l'Éternel votre Dieu. So she'll read the French, like she'll read one verse, a Bible, one paragraph in a Bible, it's called a verse. She'll read the verse, and then I'll repeat the verse, and then she'll read the next verse, and then I'll repeat the next verse. Okay, so there's the Bible, and then here's the study manual. So we're also reading the study manual together. And then sometimes we watch some videos, and then we're also reading a history book. So this is a history book of my church. So I think my church produced like 4 history books, and we're now on chapter 40, and there's 45 chapters in book 1. So it's actually quite amazing that we've gotten through 40 chapters. And it's the same thing. So she'll read one paragraph, and then I'll read the next paragraph. Now the thing is that about this book is that, so when she's reading, what I'll do is I'll read the English, and then when it's my turn to read, then what I do is actually I have as you can see down here, I have the audio. And so she doesn't hear the audio on her side, but I hear the audio in my ears. And so it's been really helpful to work on my pronunciation, because she'll like, as I'm reading, portant, jusqu'à, and then I can hear it in my ears. Maintenant, aucune femme et uniquement une poignée d'hommes avaient reçu la dotation de nombreux saints ne connaissaient. Because it's like it's hard to know, and sometimes in French, like, do I say sainte or do I say saint? Like, how do I pronounce the words in French? So that's why I feel like reading is so important. And in fact, it's not just reading. So the thing is, okay, let me show you. And then after that, we use this thing. It's called En Français Facile. So En Français Facile, it's a French website. So it means En Français Facile. So it's like French, easy French. So it's giving you the news. It's giving you the French news, but they simplify it quite a bit. And so I show her this screen so she can see this screen on her side, and she'll read Propos recueillis par Anissa El Jabri. Okay, so I'll give you an example. A very specific example, because we finished actually reading this today, and we're not going to read any more of this. So I'm just going to pull this out and show you exactly what I do. Okay. I'm going to pull this one out. There. Okay, so you can imagine that when she's reading, um, it's really hard actually for you to see this. Maybe I should move this one down. This one goes up. Yeah, that's better. There, perfect. I'm gonna have to make this a little bit smaller. There, perfect. Okay, so you can see Radio Français en facile. Okay, we need to go back to Shell, premier déplacement étranger par le nouveau Premier ministre hongrois. I think it's after this, Viktor Orban. Okay, here it is, Shell. Shell held its annual general meeting. Okay, so I'm just going to click this to make sure we're on the same word. Now, the reason this is English is because I clicked the button up here. I clicked this button. It's the Google Translate. So it turns the French into English. So when she's reading the French, then I look at the English translation. But the audio from the website, it's still going to be in French. All right, so let me show you how I do this. So this is me reading, for example, without. I'm going to read this paragraph. Shell en assemblée générale, le géant pétrolier britannique a décidé aujourd'hui de rassembler ses actionnaires à Londres. Comme autres acteurs du secteur de l'énergie, Shell a enregistré une hausse de ses profits depuis le début de la guerre au Moyen-Orient. Près de 7 milliards de dollars en plus, en partie en raison de la hausse du prix du baril. Alors, pour protester contre cet argent gagné grâce à la guerre et puis aussi noté de dérèglement climatique, a bien un rassemblement été organisé devant les bâtiments de Shell à Londres, reportage RFI, Emmeline 20. Okay, so this is basically where I am. I've never read that paragraph before. That's the first time I've ever read it. And since I read for 2 hours a day, every day, for over a year and a half now. So you can see how my reading is improved quite a bit. All right, now, you're not going to be able to hear the audio, but I can hear the audio. Shell, en assemblée générale, le géant pétrolier britannique a décidé aujourd'hui de rassembler ses actionnaires à Londres. Comme d'autres acteurs du secteur de l'énergie, Shell a enregistré une hausse de ses profits depuis le début de la guerre au Moyen-Orient, près de 17 milliards de dollars, en plus en partie en raison de la hausse du prix du baril, alors pour protester contre cet argent gagné grâce à la guerre, et puis aussi noter le dérèglement climatique. Bien, un rassemblement était organisé devant les bâtiments de Shell à Londres. Reportage RFI, Emmeline 20. Okay, so you can hear so I can hear the guy, he's a news broadcaster in the background. I can hear him reading. Now, if we're talking about Arabic, you have modern standard Arabic. So in the news broadcasters, they use something called modern standard Arabic. And most people, they don't speak, nobody speaks modern standard Arabic. But if you use modern standard Arabic on television, then that means that all the Arabic countries, they can learn one single language, and then all the Arabic speaking people can understand it. This is the same situation what happened in China. So the Chinese, after the communists took over the power with Mao Zedong, then they decided to simplify the Chinese characters and standardize the language. So when we say 普通话, it means the common language. Some people call it Hanyu, which means the language of the Han people, which has been translated in English as the Mandarin Chinese. So Mandarin Chinese. Now, But this is also called 普通话, meaning this is the common language that we're going to use across the whole country. And in China, it's the same thing. Everybody has like their own local city dialect, their own regional dialect. But then you have to have one unifying language. So in China, it's the 普通话, the common language. In Arabic, it's the standard Arabic. And in French, see, I was sharing this audio with my French student, and he's just like, well, yeah, I mean, it's French, but like this is like very specific French. This is a broadcaster. He doesn't speak like normal people. And I would say like in English, if you go to like the news broadcasting in English, I don't know. There's no difference. Like the people who speak English on the news, they speak exactly like regular people speak. There's no difference in English. So that's why I don't quite understand the concept of like some unifying English language. For example, like you have British people, they speak English. Australian people speak English. Americans, Canadians, but there's South Africans, but there's no like unifying accent. Of course, the American accent is the most common, and also the Canadian accent is so similar to the American accent because we watch so much American television. And so what happens is our accent, although there is some region that we do have some regional dialects, for the most part, Canadians speak like Americans. And I would say in general, I probably speak more like Americans than most Canadians because I teach and I have to speak more slowly and I have to pronounce every word very clearly because otherwise people who speak English as a second language can't really understand me. Okay, so that's French. Now, recently, something amazing happened recently. Because the thing is, like, what I started to do is I started to read. This is the Canadian CBC channel. So this is the French CBC, and I started gouvernement général chrono le Chantal Hébert. Chantal Hébert. Why does it say Chantal Hébert? So for some reason, there's a mixture between the two sites because Canada, the CBC has two different websites. Now, what I was doing with my teacher was we were actually using this CBC site in order. What we were doing is, so I would have one, like let's just pick the first one. So I would have like one tab open on one screen in French and then one tab open in another screen where I would click the button in English. So then the same deal, right? So then here we go. So this is the I could as my teacher was reading the French, she would read après avoir centralisé son service du pays en lançant le système Phoenix. Le gouvernement fédéral teste maintenant sa décentralisation. Radio-Canada a appris que les erreurs financières ne comptent que pour 10% de l'évaluation du projet pilote, même si des milliards de fonctionnaires ont encore les problèmes du pays. Now, you can't see it, but here, so actually I have this, you see how I have the audio turned off? The thing is, I don't actually use this method anymore. I stopped reading the news because it's mostly because of this. So this audio button, it uses some kind of robot, and the robot pronunciation is not very good. Decentralizing its payroll service in the Phoenix payroll system. Several people now testing decentralized radio candidates learned that the finance errors. So what I do is like, as the tutor is reading in French, I'll compare the French and the English. Sometimes I just read the English. Sometimes I try to compare. I go back and forth, try to compare the French to the English. And then when she finishes, then I can click the play button as I'm reading. Now, the CBC website, it used to have a sticky so that the audio button would stick against the header, but it doesn't do that anymore. Somehow it stopped working. So I was doing that for a really long time, and what I discovered is like I'm not that big of a fan of this strategy. I don't know. It's like really dry. It's difficult to understand, and I don't know. It's okay. Like reading the news every day, we just kind of did it, and there you go. So that was the plan. But magically something changed. Something really amazing changed recently where I found this website. It's called it's called Audio, Radio Canada Audio. Now, of course, it says audio, but anyways, the point is audio. And this website is amazing. All right, so check it out. Okay, so we can go into like, I can just click. What's the problem? What is the problem? So I can click Balados, or I can click Parcourir, it doesn't matter. So Balados, I guess that means podcasts. Now let's just make it smaller so you can see. Okay, so we got, let's just put this in English first. All right, podcasts. So we got featured podcasts. We got something about my version of events. We got most popular episodes. We got advertising content. We got coming soon to your ears. We got history, humor, award-winning productions, serial crimes, most listened to in 2026, attentive to your well-being, blah, blah, blah. Or offer for parents with little monsters in the car, CBC. So it's amazing. Like it has all these podcasts. The best part about these podcasts is that it has a transcript. They have like there's a lot of money that goes into CBC French. So so the thing is that like I was trying to figure out like what do I do? So I go into browse. There you go, broadcast, podcast, audiobooks, music, playlists, videos, major series, lots of stuff. And I'm mostly interested in the news. So I first came here to try to figure out like, okay, so we got two un matin, but it hasn't changed in a couple of days, so I'm not really sure what the deal is with that. This one hasn't changed for a couple of days either. The conflict in the Middle East, who benefits from AI, Pierre, Yves McSween. And then our favorite, Chantal Hébert. So there you go. Here's a new one. So there's a new one that I can listen to. All right, so let's give the example of this one. So imagine we want to listen to Chantal Hébert. So this is going to be just 7-minute clip from the whole morning show of Tout un matin. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the play button. And the audio is going to start. All right, so it looks like we got some kind of advertisement, which comes first, and it's going to be an advertisement for some other program on this. Well, you can see the. I have. Come on, E. I got Google to provide transcripts for audio that comes through the Google Chrome. But it just disappeared. Chantal Hébert. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so they said Chantal, bonjour. Okay, so what do we do? Because I need the transcript. So if we click watch the full episode, it's going to take us to the episode, and then it's a 2-hour and 57-minute episode. Now, if you click transcript, then what happens is that the system will take you down to the portion of the show where Chantal Hébert is speaking. Okay, so let's put this back into French. Okay, so there we go. So if you're interested in the news, then this is amazing because you get to listen to Chantal Hébert, and so what happens is my tutor, she'll read it in French, and then when she's reading it in French, then I'm going to use the English button here, and I'm going to turn this into English. So then when it's my turn to read, like this. Chantal, bonjour. Bonjour, on va parler cette nouvelle charge inopinée de l'administration Trump contre le Canada, c'est qu'on suspend le plus ancien comité de défense. Oui, conjoint. Now, it's like when you start listening to Canadian English, it's like conjoint, joint. Like this is very different from Parisian French. And so like now I'm like, oh, this is it's like the face is actually the face of the French Canadian is shaped differently because I've spent 2 years speaking Parisian French. And finally, I got my mouth around the basics of pronunciation, and now I got to like change it again, Quebecois. I would say mostly it's like very, very similar. There's not a lot of big differences, but yeah. So when you start, it's like donc Canado-américain, américain. So Parisian is like américain, and Canadian is américain. On s'assoyait en soi depuis 1940. Donc la Deuxième Guerre mondiale par ne pas piloter la politique de défense nord-américaine, mais par donc la Deuxième Guerre mondiale par ne pas piloter la politique de défense nord-américaine, mais quand même par examiner ensemble les grands enjeux et un comité en passant qui ne sait pas une depuis 2024. Alors s'il y a des gens qui s'inquiètent du quotidien américo-américain à partir de maintenant, c'est pas nécessaire puisqu'on ne s'en inquiétait pas tellement jusqu'à avant. All right, so that's like it's way better than the other site. You know, the red Canadian CBC site. It's like that site. It's like I'm just reading the news from it's literary. It's like somebody wrote it from their brain and into the paper, so it's literary. And maybe they wrote it with ChatGPT. So and then the audio, it's an auto, it's like a computer voice. It's not, and it's not even a good computer voice. It's not a like they're not using an API to make it sound like a real human. It's like it's like a robot voice. It was ridiculous. So I wasn't really happy with that. But now with this Radio Canada audio, it's like it's amazing because you're listening to the news from like as a podcast, and then the podcasts are real people talking to each other about real issues. Meaning that the podcast it doesn't work unless one person can convey a message to another person. Then the other person has to be able to understand that message perfectly and then respond back. So it's like it's a perfect opportunity to listen to real Canadians speaking French and explaining it in a way that I can understand. All right, so now if we go to balados, back to this idea of the podcast, the interesting thing that I just bumped into yesterday, because like Chantal Hébert, she doesn't have she doesn't add she doesn't have, they don't add her every single day. I think she goes there maybe two or three, maybe two times a week. So I was like, okay, well, I need more content. And like this site, it seems like they just have a really, really good setup of having the transcripts that flow really well with the like it's the same as Français Facile, the French RFE, Radio Française, Radio French International. It's really good where it has the audio and the transcripts, and it follows automatically so that you can repeat, you can read and repeat, you can listen. Now, so I was going through here, and I'm not really interested in these topics until I saw this one was quite interesting. I don't know why. Like, why is it this ça s'explique? Why is it here? Like, I'm interested to know how do they. Okay, so the other one are like I don't know, like this one might be interesting because this guy is talking about current events. So let's open up this one as well. And then let's open up this one as well. Because those are my main things that I'm interested in. They're current events and the news. Our correspondent on the ground in the US. Maybe analysis that everything's happening on the ice. Incredible crime stories. Travel unsolved crimes. The history. The story doesn't end there. de l'histoire. The history of Canada. That could be interesting. History of Canada. And then, well, I mean, you have to. So there you go. Okay, so now we got basically we're gonna close. Maurice Moya. Okay, this one I'm gonna leave because actually I'm listening to that right now. But all right, we'll close this one now. Okay, so let's look at this guy first of all. Let's translate it to English. All right, so we got what? We got anti-woke UQAM graduate with PCQ anti-shooting drone in the United States. Half asleep Olivier, half asleep means he's smoking weed. Comments on the current events with a coffee in hand every weekday morning. A robbery at the Nome Park, plastic made from ugly vegetables, Duncan, back in Canada. Salary cuts, TVA personalities, Folk Nobel Prize, Louis, comedy platform, what you need to know about. Okay, I don't want to listen to this. Okay, ça s'explique. Now, the reason I started listening to this is because I saw this one. It says, "Are any public grocery stores a are public grocery stores a possibility in Canada?" And this is a topic that I'm interested in hearing more about because we have some changes in the NDP party, and I started to become more interested in the NDP because I noticed that both the Conservatives and the Liberals are both supporting the wars against Gaza and Iran, and like like I'm not well well enough. I don't understand the situation well enough to be able to know who's right and who's wrong. But in general, it looks as though the Israelis they did a number. I mean, to put it lightly, they did a number on Gaza. And I'm really confused about that whole situation. And then when we talk about Lebanon, we can see that the Israel is just like it's just killing and then taking land and killing and taking land and killing and taking land. There's some arguments, I'm just actually I was just reading in Joshua chapter 2, so I know the word in Joshua chapter 2 where it says that God is promising to the the um, the house of Israel. We should use the word house of Israel here, not the tribe of Judah, but the house of Israel, which includes 12 tribes of Israel, that he's promising them the river to the sea, so the Euphrates River to whatever the other one is. So I can see that in the scriptures. I understand where Christians and Jews are coming from when it comes to this scripture, and what they're saying is that God gave us this land and we can just murder anybody we want. And then there's also like, look, so Joshua and these people, the first thing they do is they go into Jericho and then they murder everybody. So I can see, like, I don't know why people, they always say that Muslims is like a death cult, and then and then what, and then we see that what it says in the Old Testament. I'm saying that there's a lot of confusion around the ideas of religion. Now if you go into the NDP, I'm pretty sure that they're not so supportive of religious movements, because I think that they are mainly focusing on communist methodology, which in general it's not pro-religion. And also you can see that a lot of the people that support their group are pro-feminist and pro LGBT plus and whatever other letters are added to that. I'm not keeping up on that as much as maybe I could. And so yeah, I'm just trying to understand the best I can. But so I'm hearing things about, is there a public grocery store possibility in Canada? And yeah, I want to know more about that. And the feeling I got is like, wow, in French, there's like a much better discussion about these issues. And then I was thinking, wow, okay, so AI is making its way into primary, secondary school. That could be interesting. Goodbye fax, hello digital health record. Okay, that's interesting. What about more current YouTubers among Taliban? That's weird. Combating shock, a user's guide. That could be interesting. Immigration to rescue the Catholic churches. Is the integration of Quebec elections threatened? Yeah, so this guy actually has some really interesting topics that I think are important, and he's interviewing people, which means I get to listen to a lot of different accents, a lot of French accents, and I get to listen to who are the popular podcasters in and people who have some popular opinion in Quebec, which is like, wow, I didn't even know this is possible. As you saw from my early videos from 2 years ago, I was still like, I'm from Western Canada. I don't like French people. I don't like French.
But then, like over 2 years of learning French, and then listening to Chantal Hébert, and then now like getting exposed to French Canadians, and now it's like, wait a minute, I think that French Canadians have a lot more to offer than Western Canada even understands, and I think it's about this language gap. So, and that's the thing about international education. So, like I learned Chinese for 10 years. I've been learning Russian for the last basically 10 years, and I take a Russian and a Chinese lesson every week, and I'm vigorously learning French. So the thing is that what you have to do is you have to open your mind up to listen to perspectives other than what you're used to in your local community and try to understand what's going on. I listen to a heck of a lot of YouTube videos and I try to broaden my perspective. Particularly, I enjoyed the process recently where I had like a whole set of people I listened to when it comes to the Russian-Ukraine war. That's really what like helped me to understand who are the people who speak and what are they speaking about and who are being interviewed and what are the voices that matter, you could say, outside of the mainstream media. And there it seemed to be like there's like basically a group of like premier level. Like these guys are like have significant experience in this area. And then when the war moved down to the Middle East, then suddenly you found out like like 75% of like those top level broadcasters and opinion, I call them common potatoes, of these common commentators, about 75% of them were able to continue in the sphere of the Middle East. And then you found out actually they were specialists in the Middle East before they became specialists in Russia and Ukraine. So it was kind of the same group of people. And then suddenly with the China trip with Trump last week, it was really interesting because then you were able to, I was kind of like waiting, like, okay, so now, like, how many of these people can bridge the gap between the Middle East, Russia, and now moving over to China? And I found that nobody could do it. Like, there's nobody. There wasn't a single broadcaster that I listened to for Russia and Middle East who was able to pivot to China. Nobody knows anything about it. So I had to start listening to Chinese commentators because the Chinese commentators were like the only people who were able to speak intelligently about what was going on from a Chinese perspective, which I thought was really interesting. So that kind of broadened the people that I listened to. And then from there, I was like, well, if I'm listening to Chinese again, because I took a really big break and I didn't listen to any Chinese for a very long time. So maybe I should start listening to like who are the voices in Russia? Who are the voices on YouTube from Russia who have like significant, interesting opinions? And since I've been listening to opinions for so long, now it's like okay, so when I hear them talk, I can quite quickly I know is it like are they talking in very general terms, meaning that they get their information from general news and they're like this is their job to talk about stuff, and so they're just gonna like pretend that they have some opinion that's based on a foundation of historical data, legal precedents, and experiences, or are they just talking? So that's been interesting to broaden my perspectives into the Chinese world, listening to more Chinese, and now starting to listen to some Russian voices to try to broaden my perspective there. So that's really the transition that happened this winter season. Was that before the winter season, I was kind of like weak, and I was like, I can't study for more than 5 minutes a day. I'm just so tired. And then now it's like, okay, so like I have a bunch of books that I'm really interested in. What is this one about? Imperial treasures hidden in Quebec, A Misadventure of Broadway, The Provincial Shipwreck, Burial Treasure in Dawson City, Perilous Landing of Montreal Razor Maniac, Monkey Paradise, Assassination of this guy, Battle. Okay, this is like, if I have extra time, I could listen to this, but it seems like somebody's getting a lot of, because the CBC French has a huge budget. Huge budget. So some of it is entertainment. Louis Blanc, America's Trailer Double, Occupation of High Treason in Washington, Charlie Kirk Martyr. What is this, January 17th? Okay, this one looks like it's been discontinued because it doesn't continue after January 17th. March 5th. Weird. Is that 2026? Huh. I don't know. So for right now, anyways, I think I'm gonna stick to Chantal Hébert and Alexis de Lancey for I think for my two for my new yeah. So what I do is I listen to Radio France International for like for the first 20 minutes, and then I shift to Radio Canada Audio for the second 20 minutes. So right now I'm listening to I mean, this one it's taken like multiple days, right? This is 22 minutes. 22 minutes when one person reads and then I repeat. 22 minutes is basically like three 10-minute session, three 20-minute sessions. You can get through 10 minutes of audio. It takes about 40 minutes. So it's a 10 to 40. You might say 5 to 20. So five, if it says 5 minutes, it's going to take 20 minutes. And if it's going to take 20 minutes, that's like one of my sessions. So I'm usually looking for ones that say 5 minutes, but it's always like 10 minutes. So I don't know. Like for example, if we jump back into Chantal Hébert, so her most recent is 7 minutes. Okay, so that's gonna take like probably two lessons if we go slowly. Um, I mean, we can maybe get it done in one lesson. You see, so 10 minutes is basically gonna be it's gonna be 40 minutes. So that's two lessons. This one's two lessons. This one's two lessons. This one's two. They're basically all two lessons because looks like they're all between. They're all around 10 minutes. Right, so that's what I'm doing now. On top of that, the thing is that like just listening and repeating and reading, it's not enough. Like you actually have to at some point you have to start getting into the books. You have to start doing some like actual exercises. So my French tutor, she's like, "Hey, I want more money." And I was like, "Okay." So the thing is that we're already reading 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon. And I just feel like I don't want to do more reading. Like I really want to learn the language. And we've been talking to each other for over a year. And probably it's time that we like broaden our discussion, like be able to talk to each other. Because I mean, we do talk to each other quite a bit, but the thing is that when I talk to her, usually I just type it out in English and then I read the French. But then slowly you start to learn new words and you slowly learn how to talk to each other. So we could talk to each other more than we used to. So now we are going through this textbook together. Ces noms sont au singulier, soulignez les noms qui ont la même forme. Okay, so which one of these of the nouns they don't change the way that they look when they are in the plural form. So actually going step by step. So I got a book for French. Actually, I got three books in French. So what I do with her now is like I take a screenshot from each book. I send her the screenshots, and then we go through those screenshots step by step. Here's the book I'm using with my Russian tutor, and then here's some Russian rules. And then here's the book I'm using with my Chinese tutor. And then, of course, I'm also using Google Gemini to get the answers so that my tutor thinks I'm smart. So that's the thing. So now the question is, okay, well, what are you going to do with this Promenade Française? What is it called? Promenade Française. What are you going to do with your YouTube channel? Because you have a YouTube channel, and also you have like a significant number of lessons with your tutors. So what's your plan for this channel? And I was kind of like going back and forth, like, hey, this is a French channel. I'm only speaking French. I'm only practicing French. And then I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, like, I do also need to do homework in the Russian language and in the Chinese language. And I find that when I'm doing a YouTube video, it really helps me to speak out loud, because the language at the end of the day you need to speak out loud. And sometimes I cheat. Like if I'm only just doing my own homework and I'm not like speaking out loud, then maybe I'll cheat. Like maybe I'll skip some steps, or maybe I won't think through. If you have to talk about if I talk in this channel, then what happens is I have to create the logic. It's like a podcast. I have to create the logic for like what is it that I'm trying to learn, and what does it mean, and then like what am I talk through the process, and then since I'm acting like a tutor saying, hey, look, this is what I'm doing to learn these languages, this is my process, and then you can also do this too, then as I give you advice, I'm actually giving myself advice at the same time. So no promises, but I think maybe what I could do is, since I'm doing one Chinese lesson a week and I'm doing one Russian lesson per week, and then I'm doing two French lessons per week, which have exercise books in them, right? I got three French exercise books, but I do that twice a week. I got one Chinese Changyu book. I got one Russian exercise book. These are five exercise books where I can share my screen. I can show you the page. We can talk about the page. We can talk about the grammar. We can make study material from these exercise books. I can turn on my Google Gemini and I can talk. I can show you what it looks like, how you do an exercise, and then therefore I'm forcing myself to review. See, the main issue, we got two special words in language. One is called review. One is called preview. So okay, so I had a lesson on Tuesday. I had two lessons yesterday. In fact, I had three lessons. I had three exercise lessons: one French exercise, one Chinese, one Russian exercise lesson. So now I need to go back. I need to review what we learned yesterday, probably today or tomorrow. And then okay, so let's say that it's like every other day, right? So Tuesday we do a lesson. And then Wednesday we need to review. Either Wednesday or Thursday we need to review. And then on Friday or Saturday, then we need to preview for the next lesson. We have to prepare. We need to look at the material before the next lesson. All right, so that's the plan. Probably I'll do nothing, and probably you won't see another video from me for another 6 months. But then again, maybe something will happen. So maybe what we might do is I might just do it on Tuesday. So for example, I have my French exercise lesson, and then immediately I make a French video, and then I do my Russian exercise lesson, and then immediately I do the Russian lesson. So in a perfect world, I'm going to be making six, well, three. I'm going to be making 3 videos a week, because 3 videos is the review. But then what about the preview? So am I making 6 videos? Well, if I'm making 6 videos a week, that means every day. So if I'm going to be making videos every day, that means it's like before. Remember when I was jogging? I started jogging. I would get home from jogging and I wasn't quite ready to fall asleep yet. And so because I was jogging, so maybe that's it, right? So go get my jogging back together. I mean, I still go outside. I walk my dog every night. Sometimes I got a lesson. I gotta go.